You're probably thinking, my boyfriend said this was a superhero movie, but that guy in the red suit just turned that other guy into a fucking kebab. Well, I may be super, but I'm no hero. And yeah, technically this is a murder, but some of the best love stories start with a murder. And that's exactly what this is. Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. And to tell it right, I gotta take you back long before Lou squeezed his ass into red spandex.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting into the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a director at Concordia Realty Corporation and a business development manager at Asym Capital, which are two privately held commercial real estate firms, because this guy is just, diving around in the commercial realty space. He also is a podcast host of a show called Dream Chasers, which I have had the extreme pleasure of being on. And he's an avid blogger with his infamous or famous blog titled Untitled, which I always like. Thrive Loud listeners, he's coming to us from the first city the sun rises on in North America, St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, which I've been to, which is a lot of fun. Actually went on like a water motor speedy thing or something like that with my kids. Several years ago in the summertime there. Thrive Loud listeners, Asym Carswell. Adam, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the amazing intro. I think that's probably top 3 intros I've ever had in my entire life. So thank you.
Oh man, Adam, we did not crack number 1. I thought for sure we would get there today.
We know we talked about your favorite guest on your shows, and you kind of had to go with your sisters just to protect against anyone else that's ever interviewed me. I got to put you in the top 3. So.
Yeah, shout out to should my sisters have not have heard the episode, I want to give them each one. I was asked by Adam on his program, what is my favorite guest I've had on the program. We've had over 300 guests on this show. That was a very difficult question, so I took a safe bet and took my sisters, so they wouldn't be offended.
There you go.
Of course, they're fighting right now with each other, saying, "Oh my goodness, which one was better?" But they wouldn't dare. I think they're nice that way. Okay, so enough about me. Let's let the Thrive Live community learn a little bit more about Adam. Adam, let's talk shop first, and then we're going to direct ourselves over to your podcast and vlogging, because it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the space that you play in the commercial real estate market, because there's a lot of different ways you could come in. What is your specific expertise?
So I work in the space that would be a lot more what you would call on the investing side, the ownership side. It's funny because I'm very active on LinkedIn, as I'm sure you are from what I've observed as well. And sometimes people, they'll just see real estate in my headline and not read the rest or look into anything. And then I get solicited as if I was a realtor. Yeah. I'm not a realtor. I used to be, so I can't complain or be mad about it, but it's just interesting to me how that kind of all gets grouped together. So, yes, more on the ownership side of things. We're looking at deals where we can go in like a lot of other commercial real estate professionals in our space. We go in, add value to a shopping center when it comes to retail. There's a few other asset classes that we like, and provide good returns for our investors.
So really cool. Are most of the properties that you invest in the area that you reside up in Newfoundland, or do they stretch to other parts of Canada or the U.S.?
So we're heavily focused in the U.S. I coincidentally happen to be here in Newfoundland right now, visiting with some friends of mine. I'm in a good position where I can work from really wherever I choose. And I went through a life transition recently where it gave me the opportunity to really start working from wherever I wanted to. And I figured I'd come up here. I'm set up at my buddy's house, got my own room, got my own space, got my own office, doing what I normally do. It's just I'm on the real East Coast now, and I'll probably go to who knows where I'll go next. I'm really weighing my options right now, but it's a freedom lifestyle that I've always dreamed of, and it's kind of here now. I like to say that I'm definitely not making millions yet, but we'll see what happens as I continue to have fun with it.
I'll say that it's an interesting, most people go west for most of their ventures to find new things. And I like how you've taken this to the space in East. And I've been to that area, as I mentioned in the opening, and it's a beautiful area. I know it's very cold there in the winters and pretty windy. I guess you grow some pretty thick skin there, but it's gorgeous landscape, amazing food, and really great people. I think if there's any one thing that, do you agree with that sentiment?
I completely agree with that. I just found out the other day that during the 9/11 attacks that they landed a significant amount of planes here, and the Newfoundlanders, who are some of the I can't say this, they are the number one nicest people as a community that I've ever met. They were taking in people from the airport to their homes. It's really impressive. And as you were saying about the landscape, it does a lot of it's an island. A lot of the island looks like you're on a Star Wars movie planet or something like that. So very diverse, and especially when the sun does come out and when summer comes around, you really get that just beautiful views and pictures everywhere.
You mentioned that 9/11. I did see the Broadway show Come From Away, which was the remarkable true story of a small town that welcomed the world, not too far from where you were. Yeah. So, and amazing stories there. Obviously, there was a lot of that going on, and in a very tragic moment, a wonderful place to bring people together. So, very cool that you're there. Very good stuff that you're doing in commercial real estate. Let's just tackle that one for a quick second, because we are in the business category every now and then, because we'll dive into why Adam is thriving every day. But I do want to get your take on some things. Is there a certain viewpoint that you have on commercial real estate right now? Because look, we had the ultimate bottom in financial markets at one particular point, specifically in real estate in the United States, a little over 10 years ago. And now, obviously, a lot of that has changed. What do you see moving forward?
Yeah. So the interesting thing that I've learned about real estate markets, and I guess you could say commercial as well, is not one specific market will always crash all at the same time. So there's always an opportunity and an advantage to be had somewhere, normally within the US, somewhere within the US, even if a recession is going on. But even outside of that, you have international markets, and a lot of the people who are comfortable in this industry investing in commercial real estate and hard assets instead of maybe Wall Street, a lot of the times once they have gotten to a certain comfort level, they had no problem investing in something in Belize or Romania or Dubai. I don't know. I'm just throwing names of countries out there that I know people that have done deals in, but it's really exciting for me because I can see what type of cash flow vehicle it can be for me. And ultimately, I'm using this as a way to create more time and freedom for myself to do the things that I want to do. Kind of like, thankfully, what I'm doing now, which is being able to live in different countries and places and cultures around the world and diversify my mind and realize that there's not just two sides to a coin. There is a third side, and that's called the edge.
Talk about the edge a little bit. Help me understand what that means to you.
Yes. So there's a very famous author who I could totally see being on Thrive if he hasn't already been on there. Are you familiar with Robert Kiyosaki?
I am familiar with him. He has not been on the program, but keep going. This is actually pretty cool because I'm familiar with his stuff.
Yeah. So the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which people say is also often the red pill for people that enter into the business of real estate. That's one of his. I can't take the quote from him directly because I don't think I said it exactly how he says it, but that's essentially what it is there's no wrong, there's no right. There's simply always two defining sides to a particular opinion, belief, deal. And the best place to position yourself, if you can, is always on that edge, because then you can have a more diverse perspective on how you make your decisions as you go through life. And so I try to apply that principle that I learned from him into my business, but also very much into my life and everything that I do, including whatever's running through my head right now as I'm talking to you, Lou.
I want to jump right to that because that's actually a good segue. One of the things that you have been doing is whatever running through your head, you're either communicating it with your vlog or you're utilizing some amazing content and gathering it of those that are chasing their dreams on your podcast show. I'm going to ask a tough question first.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you like doing better, being the podcast host or doing your vlog Untitled?
Oh man, that is a tough one. And I think I'm going to say podcasting. I definitely love both. And it's funny, I was solicited again on LinkedIn the other day by someone who is an on-camera confidence coach. And I don't think they did any research on me. So they were probably assuming that I wasn't comfortable on camera. Long story short, I challenged them to a video contest and I haven't heard back from them yet. But so I definitely like being on camera. I can't deny that. I like being on stage. Even here in Newfoundland, my friend is a DJ. I did the lights for him the other day as he was DJing, just kind of jumping up and down, getting the crowd going. Like that's my thing. But I think I like podcasting more because I've realized it's a platform that I can use to help individuals in my network take their lives to the next level. I've seen what it's done from a confidence standpoint to some people that I've had on my show. And, on Dream Chasers, interviews with the future, as we call it, we like to highlight individuals who have had a lot of success early in whatever career they're in or whatever project they're working on. I think with Thrive, that's why we gravitated towards having you on the show, is because Thrive's roughly 5 years old. The podcast is 2 years old. And it's kind of like, hey, get ready, world, because you think this is big now. Just wait until 5-10 years from now. And so being able to highlight some of these individuals coming through on the show, it's just such a good feeling. I know maybe it sounds cliche or whatever, but being able to give someone something like that and then see how it impacts their network is just like, I would trade that honestly for a vlog episode every day.
So that is a fantastic take, Adam. And it's very interesting because I've often said that being a podcast host is the passion project that never seems to end, in both ways. And that is, one, it's always a lot of work because we're always trying to up what we're doing on the show. As we just had our 300th episode, which is kind of crazy. And we've been doing the show for a little over 2 years, and it's blown up in ways I never could have imagined. But the passion part that never ends is also great because every time I listen and hear amazing, thriving individuals that truly are thriving loud, it gets me going. So I can understand how when you sit in that seat and you absorb what's coming in versus what you put out doing your vlogs on Untitled, I absolutely can get the effect that it almost leans more towards the podcast part, because we've done some video stuff here and without a doubt, it's more comfortable. I love listening and hearing these great stories and trying to understand and decode a little bit for our listeners what makes somebody really thrive. So thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. So we'll get to the admin part of the show later where we'll point people to where they can find each of these shows. I wanted to ask a question because we always go through challenges hosting these programs. And I'm talking about technical challenges. I always like sharing with our listeners some of the ultimate FUBARs or things that have happened. So if you could, Adam, any particular mess up that happened, content, capturing issues, recording issues, technical difficulties that you have experienced that you'd like to share that have stuck out in producing your programs? Either Untitled or Dream Chasers.
Oh man, I'd like to. It's easier for me to start with Dream Chasers, just because this happened not too long ago, like probably 3 or 4 days ago. I was interviewing an individual that was unable to connect through Zoom, but I had them coming through on my phone pretty loud and clear. And I've never done this before, but I was testing it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna risk this one. I'm going to put them on speakerphone and put it up to the microphone and position myself close enough to the microphone so that it can capture both of us and not sound too weird. And probably 5 minutes into the interview, it just sounded like there was somebody listening to our call, just breathing very heavily on the call. And I'm just hoping, I'm like, man, I hope my computer does not pick this sound up because I can hear it now, but maybe the mic won't catch it. I don't know. And to be honest, actually, I haven't looked at it yet to edit it, but I'm still like really nervous, almost to the point where it's like, I don't even know if I want to edit the interview just because I'm afraid of what it might sound like. So fingers crossed that we don't have to redo that one. The only other things that I've had happen on my show before, and I'm sure you can relate to this because I've talked to a few other podcasters about it, is sometimes you just get someone that you think is going to be a really good fit and a good guest, and next thing you know, you're really fighting and struggling to make the interview last 20, 30 minutes and then just move on to whatever's next.
We had a show a long time ago in the early parts of Thrive Loud, and we had a podcasters roundtable, a bunch of podcasters talking about, it was really focused on guesting techniques, which was really helpful to help the guests be better guests. And we have a good colleague and friend and fellow speaker friend of mine, Mr. Phil Gerbishak, who was a fun guest on the show. And he was asked, if you have a guest that's on the program and they're not jiving with what he wants, if he wanted to end the interview, he would just end the interview. He would say, I'm not airing this. Like he would just say, I don't care what's going on. If it didn't fit the quality that he wanted to put on the program, he just wouldn't air it. And I remembered I initially heard that and was like, I don't know, man, is that good? You know, some people don't have the right communication skills, or maybe they're just uncomfortable in the environment and maybe something's going to get better. That was me being the optimist. Uh-huh. Looking back at it now, you know, you want to have great content. Your listeners won't listen if it's not good. So we want to make sure it's always really good. Now, there's a fine line between him cutting somebody off and saying, that's it, I'm not airing it, versus maybe driving the conversation in a better direction. I'm just making fun of Phil right now, and I'll give him a shout out on this show to say, Phil, you could have been a better interviewer, ask better questions, get them going, you know? But I totally get that when you start the interview and you don't know if it's going to go in the direction you want to. Share with the listeners, is the vlog that you do, is it just you speaking, or do you ever bring other guests on your video blog as well?
Yeah. So the name of it, Untitled, is the best description I can give of the vlog. I chose that name because I think a lot of vloggers and podcasters, any content creators that are out there, what's common is to find your focus, find your niche, and then take it and run with it. For me, plain and simple, I've always had a passion for video, as I mentioned, and especially just the whole creation process of it. And so I've made little 1-minute series videos when I was in college that I'm actually a little bit embarrassed from. I think I temporarily took them down on YouTube. Maybe I can show you guys. It was called, I've never actually shared this on a show before. So during college, I did a series called A Minute with the Nut, because I was like a nutty guy, and I would just do a random video of something that I was doing throughout my day, and it would always be 1 minute long. So I started doing stuff like Minute with the Nut when I was in college, and that kind of got popular when I was at school. And then I started making like music videos with my friends. And then I started getting a little bit, I would say, more professional or serious. And I started doing some walk-in talks, life advice type of videos. And it got to a point where it's like, man, I like doing all of these different kinds and styles of videos, whether it's life, business, or whatever. I'm going to call it Untitled because I believe the less you can label yourself with anything in life, the more, again, it's kind of like that being on the edge, the third side of the coin. The less you can be labeled, the more free you really are. And so I chose to untitle my vlog so that way I can do really whatever I want with it. So as I mentioned, I'm going through a life transition right now. So anyone who wants to get more details on what that really looks like.
Yeah, so can we dive there? I wanted to in the beginning because I wanted to hear what that was. Can you share with the listeners what that is? I was going to dive, but I didn't know how sensitive to be on that.
Thank you for asking, because like for me, this is one thing that I'm learning more and more every day. And I'd encourage our listeners, and Lou, I'm sure you can relate to this. There's a certain level of transparency that really unlocks the ears and the eyes of the people that are around you. And so for me, I didn't really know how to approach this at first, but long story short, the woman that I was in a relationship for the past year and a half, someone that I thought I was going to legitimately marry and spend the rest of my life with, we split about 2 months ago. And that was the first time in my young 28 years of life that I had ever been through anything to that extent emotionally. And I say I was very grateful through the whole process because, from what I've heard, normally there's 3 relationship killers, and it's someone cheating, financial issues, or some type of addiction. And so I can say, thankfully, none of that happened. But it was still really hard, and I was the one who ended it. And not at all did I think that me ending it was going to send me into like the psychological spiral that it sent me down. And it made me just reevaluate a lot of things about life. It made me reach out to people I wouldn't normally talk to. And really, I'd say the past month and a half, 2 months have just had a huge paradigm shift that tie in again deeply with these life perspectives that I've already had, and kind of made me believe in them more, which again is the 3 sides of the coin: living unlabeled and chasing your dreams. So now that I'm single and, doing more of the things that I want to do, because I'm all that I have to really think about now, that's what brings me here. And I guess really the life lesson from this whole thing that I could share again with the listeners is humans, we all kind of naturally, we're kind of like, the bugs that they just are addicted to the light. They're just going to the light. We all gravitate towards the light, but we forget that, like a plant or like a tree, you need to begin in the darkness. You need to begin in the soil, for example. Your roots, your foundation come from those times where you're super empty. And I was guilty of trying to fill that emptiness multiple times recently, and probably throughout life, with distractions, whether it's even making a video or something, or pursuing something that's going to take my mind off of it instead of just being there and sitting and being empty. And I feel like embracing that feeling instead of trying to run away from it really helped create a paradigm shift that, again, I would want anyone listening to just remember. Next time you're in a tough spot, don't be in a rush to replace it with something else. Embrace that emptiness, embrace that darkness, because then you really establish your roots, and then you're able to absorb the light in a way that you're supposed to, like a flower or a tree, as I mentioned.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. And most of the listeners that are around your age, there's all going, dude, feel free to go with you. Every other older person like myself is like, dude, you got so much life ahead of you. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all But understand everyone's been those moments, and that's a great perspective with that. And always a good segue, because I had good segues on your program. We're just going to need to segue this one. I love asking the guests on this program, Adam, when you have trouble thriving, who or what practice do you seek to help get yourself back on the thriving track?
Yeah, I think this one's pretty easy for me, and I would say it's my faith. I believe in God, and I believe that there is so much going on in our world, in our lives on a daily basis that I had this metaphor, and I was playing around with a Rubik's Cube that was not your average Rubik's Cube. This was like one that had like 20 sides to it. And I'm sure there's some whizzes out there that could actually grab this thing and figure it out and whatever. But to me, the beauty of this Rubik's Cube is like, man, no matter how hard I try to figure this out, I'm not going to figure it out. So the confidence that I can have is knowing that someone, the creator, God, created this Rubik's Cube, and I don't know how to fix it, but I know in the blink of an eye like that, he can have this thing completely worked out. And so just knowing that source is on my side, and that abundance and that creativity and that power is flowing through me, going back, praying, meditating, going over the things that you're grateful for, that's how I continue to thrive during those empty times and those scary moments.
Adam, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I love it. And a healthy way to do that. And I think you and I spoke about this. The Thrive Out listeners will see in the artwork and the image of Adam here, he's got a little something hidden in there. You want to share a little bit about the iconography that you've got going on in on our podcast artwork?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually was trying to remember which headshots I sent you, but yeah, I have my logo right there next to my smiling face that Lou's going to put up. And so, yeah, my logo again, I put that on everything that I do, even working with the commercial real estate firms that I'm with now, just as a way to have a piece of me, a part of everything that I touch, because you never know what direction your life is going to pull you. But I've found a lot of power in having a personal logo. And when I first created one, I had no idea that I would be using it to the extent that I'm using it now. I just kind of did it. So again, my advice to anyone listening right now, if you haven't thought about creating your own personal logo, I would say just do it, because it kind of grows with you. And as it grows with you, you can figure out ways to utilize it and brand yourself throughout the rest of your life and create something that really is timeless, even more than a headshot. So, and then the meaning behind the logo too, I should say, is everything. This is going to sound a little bit cliche, but basically everything happens for a reason. And the reason that's the meaning is because if you look closely, it's IX, which is actually the number 9 in Roman numerals. And the number 9 is my number. There's also a cross there subliminally hidden as well in the IX, just because I was raised in a Christian household. I'm someone that I would first and foremost say I'm very spiritual individual. And again, I'm on that third side of the coin, but I was raised in a Christian household, and those are my roots, and that's where I come from. So yeah, IX is how most people refer to my logo, but to me, it's Asym Carswell.
Very cool. I just think of everyone sees the Thrive Loud or the Thrive logo or even the Lou Diamond logo. It all has that little green, it looks like a green fidget spinner, but it is pointing upward and onward to the right. And the spinning is actually relevant. It does look like something that spins because our life is always spinning, but the general direction that we're heading is onward and upward. So see,
absolutely.
You're getting it. And there's like green, which is like growth. We like all that.
How are we doing on this, by the way? Because I feel like I got really, again, like I said, deep and spiritual. We didn't talk that much about business. Are we doing all right?
We did, because you see we covered a little bit about that. We talked about, what these podcasts are about. We talked about your commercial real estate stuff. Remember, it isn't just solely about business. We do get those that are thriving in their lives, their businesses, and their passions. And you, my friend, are doing all three. So Adam, with that, share with the listeners all the places people can find you. Websites, links, podcast links, the vlog, the everything. Put that out there. We will put it in the show notes, but it always comes better when they hear it from you.
Yes. So my website is the best place to start. Carswell.io. That's I as in Idaho, O as in Ohio. You can also email me, adam@carswell.io. Those are probably the best ways. If you go to my website, it has links to everything else that I'm doing and working on. So we'll leave it at that.
Sounds good. 2 more questions for you, Adam, before we get you out of Dodge here. All right, we'll do the one that you were prepared for, but we're going to have a little double meeting because I've never seen anyone respond the way you have to this question. Asym Carswell, what are your all-time favorite movies? Because you gave 2 responses.
I did. So, and that you're right, they're very different in style, but my first all-time favorite movie, because I'll never forget the summer vacation where my brother and sister and I sat at home and watched this movie probably 6 times in one day on VHS and rewound it to the beginning every time. Space Jam. I love Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James, in my opinion. I'm sure there's some people listening that disagree with me, but again, that's the side of the coin I will take. And then my other favorite movie is Pulp Fiction.
So I'm gonna
by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, so I'm gonna dive in on both of these. I'll work a little backwards.
Right.
So we love Pulp Fiction in the show, and I think it's great because I think we've had a couple of the 300 some odd guests. We did a countdown back at 200 to 250. I forgot, but I think it was 200. We did a movie countdown, and in that we highlighted all of the favorite movies of those top 200 guests. And Pulp Fiction didn't crack the top 10, but there were a bunch of responses, and a lot of people love that program. And obviously, there's so many good moments. What I'm going to ask is, what's your favorite moment within that movie, Pulp Fiction? That was the second part of my question.
Oh man, these are great. I love this. I might have to steal some of these questions for my show. Favorite moment in Pulp Fiction.
Or favorite storyline, because we know they're all overlapping. So right. I don't know if there's one aspect.
Oh, yeah. So it is a storyline. Definitely the storyline of Butch.
Oh,
and Butch. If I could be one. Yes. Exactly. If I could be one character in Pulp Fiction, hands down, Bruce Willis, that would be my pick.
It was on recently, and that very piece of Pulp Fiction was airing. It's one of those rewatchable movies that anytime it's on, you just want to sit through it. And skipping the whole scene with the girlfriend, and then having to go back and get the watch, which has been through so much, and skipping the car accident and the ridiculousness that takes place with the unique individuals in whatever part of LA those guys are. After he escapes and he picks up the girl, it's one of the funniest lines in the whole movie. When he's yelling and screaming, let's get the F out of here. We got to go. And she all of a sudden starts crying, and he looks at her and says, "Oh, honey, how are your blueberry pancakes?"
Right.
So all the things to go on, and him to actually bring that up at that point is still one of my favorite lines in that whole movie. So well played on that. I'm going to go back, and now it was really the second part of the discussion, to talk about Space Jam for a second. I don't know if this is his favorite movie, but my son, who's younger than you, my son is about 10 years younger than you. And he is a Chicago Bulls fan because of Space Jam. And because of Michael Jordan in that movie at whatever age it was. And by the way, when that movie was out and he was watching it, Jordan had already retired. He never even really saw him in his peak in all those years that I got to see him win all those championships. So it obviously that movie has a lasting effect on millennials and Gen Zers, I guess, because they love this movie.
Yeah, whoever came up with the idea of combining arguably the greatest winner of all time with Bugs Bunny, it was a good move.
It was smart and humorous and fun, and even throwing in Bill Murray into the movie, it never hurts. It's always,
da, 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 da.
Well played. Asym Carswell, truly a pleasure having you on Thrive Loud. Thank you for coming on. Continued success to you on your self journey, on all your business ventures, and obviously your podcast and blog. May everyone learn about it. We will link everyone to it. And again, thank you for coming on Thrive Loud today.
Thank you, Lou.
And to all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.